Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 30th, 2018.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
105 here on the great WRKO. Okay, a lot to talk about today. The caravan. It has finally now, or at least some of them, have now crossed the border. It's kind of been an anticlimax to the whole thing. But anyway, we've got the latest. And I'll see if I have time to get to it. Students at Lincoln Sudbury Regional High School walk out to protest a sexual assault that took place over 5 years ago. Big local story. But first, it's what the country's talking about. The utter disgraceful and mistreatment, the disgraceful mistreatment of Sarah Sanders, Kellyanne Conway, and really her entire monologue of Michelle Wolf, which now has disgusted much of the country and now has the Washington media class desperately trying to do damage control. So, as she's doing her routine, she actually, Michelle Wolf, to give her her due, to give the devil her due, actually makes a very interesting comment. She actually says, well, you know, I'm being vulgar, I'm being profane, I'm dropping the F-bomb, I'm using the P word, I'm insulting people, I'm making a lot of really obscene sexual jokes. But didn't you guys do your research? Because you're the ones that hired me and you should have known what you were getting. Roll it, Jared.
And started knitting those hats. When I first saw them, I was like, that's a I guess mine just has a lot more yarn on it. Yeah. Should have done more research before you got me to do this.
That's liberal smut. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to get into it. It's a family show. But when you start getting into how, forgive me, female genitalia looks like, and you think that's funny, that's liberal smut. That's what this is. That is completely inappropriate for children, for teenagers. Frankly, for most people, they find this vulgar and disgusting, not funny. These guys are yucking it up. You want to see how morally debauched and depraved they are? They think this is funny. Okay, they think descriptions of a female's genitals, forgive me, and how hairy it is, and how much hair it has, and how much hair it doesn't have, they think this is funny. Okay, so you want to see how utterly morally bankrupt our elites are? This 19-minute monologue, I mean, this is it. This is a damning indictment of the regime. But I want to get to another point. She actually says, didn't you do your research? I mean, this is, you know, this is, you don't like it? This is what I do. So what the White House Correspondents Association is now trying to claim is they're trying to claim that they're shocked by her performance. By the way, they still have not issued an apology to Sarah Sanders or Kellyanne Conway. They're starting now, the White House Correspondents Association, to denounce Michelle Wolf and saying this should have been a great night for us to come together as a country, to unify behind a vigorous and free press. This ruined the evening or whatever, it tainted the evening. But they still haven't issued an apology, okay? But let that go. They're trying to claim that we didn't know this. We didn't know she was going to go this low. We're just as shocked and horrified as all of you now with the massive blowback and the backlash from the country, especially middle America, saying this is disgusting. You think this is funny? This is deeply insulting, vulgar, and offensive on a profound moral level. And so now they're trying to claim, oh, we weren't aware that this is part of her act. They're lying. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because if you know anything about comedy, okay, and we had a very good friend, don't want to give away his name, I don't want to ruin the guy's career, but he would He was on the Jay Leno show multiple times. He was on some of these late night shows, and he told us, he goes, you have to understand, there's one thing about comedy and comedians. They're all grouped and categorized. So if you want, let's say, a comedian that uses profanity, there's people who do that. There are some who do sex jokes. There are some who do race jokes. There are some who do ethnic jokes. Some do, some don't. That's how they're categorized. So you know what you're getting, let's say when you're in Vegas and you hire a stand-up comedian, or where you're in Washington or New York and you hire a stand-up comedian. What we saw last night was a stand-up comedy act that you would find, say, in the red district, the red light district, say, of New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, the sleaziest part of town. And you want to hear a really vulgar, profanity-laden routine, I mean, just, goes right to the gutter, then you go see Michelle Wolf. So they knew what they were getting. What they wanted was a never-Trump, anti-Trump comedian. And they wanted her to just plow into Trump and make all the pee jokes under the sun and call him every name in the book and drop F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. Because to these idiots, they think this is cool. This is hip. This is edgy. Look at us. We're so cool and hip. Come on now. This is the new Trump era. If the president swears, we can outswear him. We can even be more vulgar than he is. We can even be more offensive than he is. It's Trump derangement syndrome. What they didn't realize was that the part where she goes after Sarah Sanders in such a personal, vicious way, and Kellyanne Conway would boomerang against them. They thought she could pull it off with a little bit more sophistication. But instead, it was just one ugly rant. And so now they're trying to backpedal. Now they're trying to throw her under the bus. Now it's, we didn't know. No, we were shocked by the profanity and the swearing and the obscenity, and it just crossed the line. No. You just don't like the fact that her jokes on those two women bombed and blew up in your face. And now you're all pretending, we're shocked. We're shocked. They knew exactly what they were getting. Now the claim is, we didn't properly vet her. BS. They vetted her. And they knew what they were getting. And by God, she gave it to them. 617-266-6868. Sorry, Jared, what'd you say? What, Jared? Sorry.
Said, sure, now they want vetting.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Now they want vetting. So, as this is going on, okay, you want to see a tale of two Americas? You could not have contrasted this more clearly. So, here you have this far-left comedian full of absolute hatred for anybody who supports Trump, who hates ordinary, everyday Americans, despises middle America, who is one of the most radical left-wingers you can get, okay, on the one hand. And then on the other hand, you have President Trump in Washington, Michigan, Washington Township, Michigan, as these people are indulging in absolute lewd, disgusting behavior. He's in the heartland, in front of an absolutely packed auditorium, waving the American flag, screaming, cheering, as he talks about his America First agenda. So there's the president talking about the economy, talking about the incredible breakthrough with the two Koreas meeting, him maybe even now getting a Nobel Peace Prize, talking about how he's going to put their interests first and put the camera back to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., Washington, Michigan. Washington, Michigan, Washington, D.C. So, you want to see a tale of two Americas? Listen now to Michelle Wolf talk about how she's also a victim of the hashtag. She's part of the hashtag Me Too movement. She's also been victimized by white male patriarchy. Roll it, Jared.
Now, I've worked in a lot of male-dominated fields. Before comedy, I worked at a tech company, and before that, I worked on Wall Street. And honestly, I've never really been sexually harassed. That being said, I did work at Bear Stearns in 2008. So although I haven't been sexually harassed, I've definitely been f***ed. Yeah, that whole company went down on me without my consent. And no men got in trouble for that one either.
They think that's funny. Okay? I mean, you can't get more disgusting or more lewd or more vulgar than this. So they think that's funny. America is watching this in Washington, and on the other channel, the other C-SPAN channel, they listen to this. Jared, roll me the cut of Trump talking about trade and how we need to make good trade deals for the United States. Roll it.
So we're doing trade deals, and a lot of these folks in Washington, please don't do that. I said, wait a minute, we have a horrible deal on this one, on that one, I won't even mention. We love you, Trump! I love you too.
So he's talking about renegotiating NAFTA. He's talking about slapping tariffs on Chinese goods being dumped into our country. He's talking about ending the outsourcing of our jobs and manufacturing. And then he goes on to talk about the booming economy. And the symbolism of this couldn't be more stark. Here he is in Michigan, the heart of the Rust Belt, the state that Hillary Clinton should have won running away with. And yet the Republicans have not won since 1988. And the Trump miracle that he won in 2016. And so here you now have a Midwestern Rust Belt state that has been hemorrhaging jobs. The auto sector has been fleeing, hemorrhaging manufacturing for decades. And Trump wins it. And he tells them, I've got your back. The economy is now booming. The jobs are coming back. The manufacturing is coming back. And yes, the auto industry, which is the heart of Michigan, is coming back. The cars are no longer being made in Mexico or China and then dumped in tariff-free. They're coming back and they're being made all across Michigan, starting in Detroit. Listen now to President Trump talk about what is going on in the heartland. Jared, give me the cut about Kanye West saying, Kanye, he gets it for blacks, for minorities, for women, for all Americans. The economy is back. America is back. Roll it.
Kanye West gets it. He gets it. He gets it. And he saw that. When he sees that African American unemployment is the lowest in history, you know, people are watching. That's a very important thing he's done for his legacy. It's a very important thing.
Compare this to, go back, listen now, to Michelle Wolf go after Sarah Sanders. He's talking jobs. He's talking unemployment. He's talking about trade. He's talking about the bread and butter issues that are going to save and restore America. But this is what the Washington elite is obsessed with, like the modern day Roman Empire. You couldn't get more decadent. You couldn't get more disgusting. You couldn't get more out of touch. Roll it, Jared.
Every time Sarah steps up to the podium, I get excited because I'm not really sure what we're going to get. You know, a press briefing, a bunch of lies, or divided into softball teams. It's shirts and skins, and this time don't be such a little bitch, Jim Acosta. I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye.
Yep, there you go. Mocking a woman for her appearances. And she thinks that's funny. And they're yucking it up. So Trump, while he's in Washington, Michigan, says, there's another event taking place in Washington, D.C., and I'm not going to be attending. You know why? Roll cut to Jared.
Is this better than that phony Washington White House Correspondents' Center? Is this more fun? I could be up there tonight smiling like I love where they're hitting you shot after shot. These people, they hate your guts. Shot.
He's completely right. You see, they hate your guts. They hate you. They don't just hate Trump. They don't just hate Sarah Sanders. They don't just hate Kellyanne Conway. They hate them because they're defending and promoting an America First message. They hate you because, as Hillary put it, you are the deplorables. You are the bigots and the racists and the sexists and the homophobes and the xenophobes and the Islamophobes who are irredeemable. And so, when you're dealing with Nazis, you hate Nazis. All they have now is sheer, pure, unadulterated hatred. You want to see a tale of two nations. You want to see a tale of two countries. You want to see a tale of two philosophies, liberalism and conservatism. The political media elites, the ruling class and the heartland. On Saturday night, the difference couldn't be more stark. You have the haters who are drunk on power, who now are obsessed with overturning the results of the election, who are now mired in Trump derangement syndrome, and you have the heartland that loves Trump, loves America, and loves our country. The battle lines have been drawn. It's Michelle Wolf against the president. Who do you side with? Your calls next.
But I'd much rather be in Washington, Michigan than in Washington, D.C. right now. That I can tell you.
126 here on the great WRKO. Nick, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, Satadadish.
I'm good. How are you, Nick?
Very well, thank you. Humor me, Jeff, on my observations, and I'd love to hear your input on this. You know, the DNC, the Washington Press Corps, and all those affiliated with them, they're creating viruses. And the virus is how far can they push the envelope relative to moral standards. And if they can continue to do this without the lashback or the feedback in a negative fashion, they'll push it even further. And so they hire this no-name comedian to get up and deliver some pretty vulgar messages as a litmus test to see how the country reacts to this. And depending upon where you stand and where you sit, it'll be like, oh, it's just harmless comedy. But in reality, it's a form of bullying. And the more that we tolerate it, and the more we allow this to go on, especially at that level, I truly believe that it's the strategy and tactics of the Democratic Party and of the press corps to see how far they can push the envelope to try and change the moral fiber of the country. And I'd love to get your observations on that.
Nick, I think you're absolutely dead on. I think it's absolutely perceptive on your part. I would just go one step further. I think you're completely right. But notice, she singled out the two key or best-known female members of Trump's cabinet. And I think she also did that. That was calculated. And the reason why she did it is that the left in this country is trying to make every woman ashamed for supporting Trump. They want to ostracize you. They want to humiliate you. They want to vilify you. Because their goal is to have every minority, every Latino, every woman vote for the Democrats in November and then in 2020. And so what they're basically trying to say is, you see, I've been getting texts all day. Jared, can you play that cut, the beginning of the cut of Wolf going after Sarah Sanders, where she mentions that aunt from The Handmaid's Tale? I've been getting texts all day saying, what does that mean, Jeff? I'll let everybody know what it is. Roll it, Jared. Roll it in 1 second. Roll it.
Of course, we have Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We are graced with Sarah's presence tonight. I have to say I'm a little starstruck. I love you as Aunt Lydia on The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, now what is that? The Handmaid's Tale, I know this, is a dystopian futuristic novel. It's written by a Canadian, Margaret Atwood. She's big up in Canada. And it's also a series on Hulu now, so they made it like in a television series. It's about a futuristic fascist American state. And this aunt is a fat woman who's basically, how do I say this, a madam. She provides young women for the sexual satisfaction of leading members of this fascist regime, this futuristic fascist regime. So that's who she's comparing Sarah Sanders to. She's basically saying you're a fat woman who provides women for the sexual satisfaction, wink, wink, of Donald Trump. That's what she's really calling her. So she's trying to so humiliate her, so degrade her, that she's going to get up and say, I'm not going to work for this administration. It's just not worth it. And they want to do that to every woman. Why? Because in the end, they don't want any minority or any woman working for this regime, working for this administration. Because then they can say, you see, it's all white men. What did we tell you? He's racist to the core. So what their goal was, I think, was twofold. Push the moral envelope to see how obscene they could be and what the country's reaction would be. And number two, they are out to shame every woman out there and say, how dare, never mind that you vote or support Donald Trump, but that you work for this man? You're going to pay such a big price in public shame and humiliation. We're going to defame you. We're going to slander you. We're going to smear you, that nobody's going to want to work for him. And that's why she stood there right to their faces and called both of them liars right to their face. That's a line you don't cross. 617-266-6868. Okay, my friends, state visits with President Trump continue. Next up is the president of Nigeria. Angela Anderson is in the WRK newsroom. She's got a lot more. What is it, Angela? 136 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, we're going to continue to take your calls. 617-266-6868. However, there is a lot of other news to cover. As Michelle Wolf was roasting, torching the president and viciously attacking Sarah Sanders and Kellyanne Conway and going into the gutter, President Trump continues to tout his diplomacy with North Korea, and over the weekend, history was made. Little rocket man Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea, met with the president of South Korea, President Moon, President Moon and President Kim met at the key dividing line between North and South, and then historically embraced one another. In Korea, it brought tears from both sides of the border. This is a country that has technically been at war since 1953. It was just an armistice, not a peace treaty that ended that war. And now they are openly talking about potential reconciliation and the possibility of the denuclearization of the entire Korean peninsula. And as these two leaders, divided now for over 65 years, two Koreans, ethnically they're both Korean, one from the free capitalist South, the other from the communist Stalinist North. As they embraced one another, even the president of South Korea had to admit all of this was taking place because of Trump's diplomacy. His maximum economic pressure and sanctions on the regime, combined with his tough talk and his military containment of the little rocket man. And according to him, there is no question about it that Trump, in his words, not mine, deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. As President Moon put it, it doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to Kim Jong-un, the mad midget. It belongs to one man and one man only. We've only gotten this far because of the President of the United States. So, while the Washington press corps railed against the president, called him every name in the book, dropping F-bombs, S-bombs, the P word, attacking him in the most vicious way, his daughter in the most vicious way, Sarah Sanders in the most vicious way, Kellyanne Conway in the most vicious way, as they yucked it up and indulged in their sheer hatred for the president and everything he stands for. He was in Michigan telling all of his supporters, they were telling you I was going to start a nuclear war. And now these two leaders, for the first time in 65 years, have done the unthinkable. They have met, they have shaken hands, they have embraced, and they're openly saying, one man deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, and that's President Donald Trump. Roll cut one, Jared.
If we would have said where we are today from 3 or 4 months ago, remember they were saying, he's going to get us into nuclear war, they said. Nuclear. No. Strength is going to keep us out of nuclear war, not going to get us in. The denuclearization of the Korean peninsula of North Korea, the denuke. But we'll see how it goes. And again, whatever happens, happens. Look, I may go in, may not work out, I leave. But I'll tell you one thing, we're not playing games. And I remember, it was very rough 3-4 months ago.
The crowd is shouting out Nobel, Nobel, Nobel. They want to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. The question now is, will it be Peace Prize Donald? And now you have the Koreans saying he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. And unlike Barack Hussein Obama, if you remember, when he got his Nobel Peace Prize, he hadn't done anything. They literally gave it to him for the virtue of winning the election. This man, President Trump, the exact opposite. He went to the brink of war with Kim Jong-un. He threatened the mad midget. He humiliated the mad midget through all of his tweets. He used maximum economic pressure and sanctions. He did what everybody said could not be done. He roped in China by using our trade leverage with them to lean on the North Korean Stalinist regime. He got Russia on board, Japan on board, the European Union on board, the UN on board. He got everybody on board to apply maximum economic, diplomatic, and military pressure. He sent our fighters there, our forces in near North Korea, to let Kim Jong-un know, if you dare attack South Korea or Guam or Hawaii, we will annihilate you. In other words, he squeezed him so hard that he had no choice but to cry uncle. Now, we don't know what's going to happen at the summit. It may all be for nothing. Maybe Kim Jong-un will never give up his nuclear arsenal. We'll see. But the fact that we have come this far is due to the diplomacy of President Trump, to the America First foreign policy of President Trump. And I'm telling you right now, my friends, if the economy continues to boom and he pulls this thing off with North Korea, which will go down in history as one of the greatest achievements in foreign policy in over 100 years, what are the liberals going to do then? What are they going to do then? Everything they have said about him has turned out to be a lie. He has been much tougher on Russia than Hillary or Obama ever were. He has been much better. Remember they said the economy was going to crash? The economy is booming. Remember they kept saying again and again that he was going to be an utter failure as president? Unemployment is down, almost to historic low levels. He has been the best friend the black man, the African-American community has ever had in the Oval Office. Unlike Obama, he's delivering. Jobs, lower unemployment, law and order, better schools. Things are a hell of a lot better now in the inner cities than they ever were under Obama. Why do you think Kanye West is supporting him? Why do you think Chance the Rapper is supporting him? ISIS is smashed. Iran, that deal is on the verge of being torn up, and the mullahs are being contained. China now is getting real pushback. They're no longer now taking advantage and dumping in our market. We have now put Mexico on notice regarding NAFTA and the border. Everything he said he was going to do, he's delivering. He's delivering. And this in the face of unprecedented hatred and partisan opposition. The whole mainstream media against him. The Democratic Party against him, the Washington bureaucracy against him, the establishment Republicans against him, the deep state against him, the FBI against him. Everybody's against him. Everybody. And what I've said this before and I'll say it again. Can you imagine if this guy actually wasn't being obstructed at every turn? What he could be accomplishing for this country? And so my question now to you is this. What do you make of the White House Correspondents' Dinner? And is Trump on the verge of a Nobel Peace Prize regarding a possible denuclearization and peace on the Korean Peninsula? And if he does get the Nobel Peace Prize, does this guarantee Trump's reelection in 2020? 617-266-6868. Eddie in Peabody, you're up next. Go ahead, Eddie.
Jeff, two things. Number one, Netflix should be in full-bore panic, but they're probably not. My point is that everybody who has Netflix that's a right-thinking person, forget it. I don't care if there's movies you can't see without Netflix. It's not that important. I've never used Netflix because I know what they're all about. Number two, whatever Hollywood mogul buddy of Bill Clinton's is at the top of the conglomerate that houses this vile comedian's career today should be a nightmare. If we were organized like we should be, like a previous caller said, they shouldn't be able to move today. They shouldn't be able to do business. They should be able to say, we got to dump this lady. She's ruining us. And I said the same thing back when Johnny Depp said something to the effect of, America's a big, stupid dog that ruins everything. I thought, whoever the hell is at the top of Johnny Depp's career and whatever billionaire should be horrified right now, should be afraid he's going to lose everything. I cite you as an example. Chick-fil-A is opening 4 locations in Manhattan, just a couple of years after they were supposedly doomed because they believed in God. Look what's happening now. And that's just the point I want to make, that we just need to be harder. Trump needs to be harder. We need to play harder and win more.
Eddie, Netflix, as you know, is offering Michelle Wolf a weekly show, a weekly series. Hollywood is rallying around her. All of them. Rosie O'Donnell, Rob Reiner. You can run down the whole list. Every Hollywood mogul and big shot is defending Michelle Wolf. They're calling her a heroine. They're calling her a hero. They're saying that she showed tremendous courage and bravery by calling out, they say, Kellyanne Conway for the liar that she is, Sarah Sanders for the liar that she is, and that she exposed Trump for the monster that he is. So they think it's brilliant comedy. They think it's a brilliant political commentary, and they think now that she's a heroine on the left. So let me ask you this, Eddie. Do you think this exposes even more the chasm between the Hollywood elite and the mainstream media and the rest of America. Because if this is who the mainstream media invites, that shows you how much they hate you, me, and most of the country. Am I wrong?
Yes, Jeff. And also, I want to say, usually when I hear someone say, oh, this is the thing that for sure is going to doom the Democrats in November, usually I say, wait a minute, don't get too excited. I think the Democrats are doomed in November anyway, but I think this does more. This pushes the possibility that they're going to make any gains farther and farther away because, as you just said, that chasm, on the other side of that chasm is actually a tiny percentage of the voters. And one thing I'll agree with about Johnny Depp about is that we are very big and very strong, and we don't know our own strength. We need to be more aware of our own strength.
I agree with you. Eddie, great call. Thank you for that call. Anthony in Michigan, you're up next. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhner. It is always a blessing to be on. About the dinner, well, we love all those women, Sarah and Kelly and all the women we married that voted for President Trump, and we have their backs. On the Nobel Peace Prize, they won't give it to him, but even better, wait till he gets the peace deal with Israel. They're going to have to wrap their heads in duct tape to keep them from blowing apart.
Anthony, I'm just curious. Did you go to the rally? Were you able to go? And number two, how is Trump playing in the heartland? And what are people in Michigan saying about that White House Correspondents' Dinner?
I haven't heard about the dinner. No, I did not go. It was 37 degrees and windy. Here's some of the stats, Jeff. There was a 2-mile-long car line to get in there.
Wow.
What's his name? Corey Lewandowski says there was 10,000 people in the stadium that it was only supposed to hold 5, and there was 25,000 people outside. Jeff, even if it's half that, that would be 17.5. Somewhere between 17.5 and 35,000 people went to go see our president on a day off. Are you kidding me? This is a movement. It took 4 hours for some people to get in the building, and they were grateful. Now, a friend of mine gave the invocation, a guy by the name of Terry Bowman, and there's another little thing that people didn't notice. President Trump turned around and saluted a gentleman just before he took the microphone. It was a handsome young African-American gentleman. Do you know who he was?
Sorry, say that again, Anthony?
A handsome African-American gentleman saluted the president before he got on stage. Do you know who he was?
No. Who was he?
John James, who's running against Debbie Stabenow for the Senate.
Beautiful.
Jeff.
So we have a black conservative, Anthony, we got a black conservative running against a Democratic senator in November?
Yes.
Wow.
And he's one of two in the primary. I hope he gets it. The place was jamming. It is, and I said it on one of the websites I was on. This is Trump country. How can it not be? And then Corey Lewandowski either stole my line or we're thinking alike. There's a lot of people here that are quietly Trump supporters. There's some that don't like his mannerisms. But Jeff, you should see the main thoroughfares where lots for sale. They're booming. There was this one 4-corner lot in Plymouth, Michigan, that I watched decline with a Chrysler dealership and 2 or 3 plots. Did nothing for almost 8 years. There's one where there was a building that was sort of not being utilized. It's torn down. They're getting ready for someone to really put something in there to make a go of it.
Beautiful.
And
Anthony, I'm up against it, but what you're basically saying is Michigan is starting to boom.
It is. People are starting to steal good employees. People are losing good employees.
Good. Anthony, I got to go. Great call. Thank you for that call. What did I tell you, my friends? Middle America loves Donald Trump. Jim, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I have a question for you, please.
Yes.
I did not see or hear the correspondence dinner. I'm not much interested in it. I only heard bits and pieces of what you played on your radio station this afternoon, but you did say that you have never heard anything more vulgar, despicable, or disparaging than what was said about Miss Sanders. Now, let me just, one question, if I may. You don't put that on a par with what Mr. Trump had to say on that bus?
Well, what I meant, Jim, was the 19 minutes. I don't just mean what she said about Sanders. I meant, and if you want, Jim, you can look it up. I have the whole 19 minutes on WRKO.com/Kuhner. The constant F-bombs, the S-bombs, feces, I can't say the word, the P word, the utter vulgar jokes, the utter obscenities. It's shocking. I mean, honestly, Jim, I don't think this shouldn't be a pro or anti-Trump thing. For the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it's completely unacceptable. Now, as for you're talking about the Billy Bush tape of 2005, look, Jim, I love my wife. I've never cheated on my wife a day in my life. I have a wonderful young daughter. I would never want a man to speak about my wife or my daughter or any woman like that. So, I don't go around saying, oh, look at that Billy Bush tape. Trump is great. It's locker room talk. It's disgusting locker room talk. But I'd be lying to you, Jim, if I didn't say I've been in many locker rooms at my workout club or whatever. That's how a lot of people talk. And, it's not right. I don't like it. I think it's disgusting. But do I think it disqualifies somebody from being president of the United States? No. And I also look at Trump and I see how many women he's hired. Even look at his administration now. He's hired many highly qualified women. So if he was a true sexist or misogynist, his record would show that. Instead, his record has shown the exact opposite. So look, he's coarse. He can be a vulgarian. I don't like that. I don't talk like that. I've never used the P word in my life, I'll be honest with you, except when I, repeat what others have said. So I don't like what he said. But Jim, do me a favor, really, in all honesty, this was 19 minutes. This wasn't a minute or two on the bus with Billy Bush. This was 19 minutes in front of the most powerful members of Congress, senators, media elites in the country. And she just went on and on and on. Jim, I'm telling you, it's going to turn your stomach.
Well, I can only tell you that I did hear on the news this afternoon that the woman that's in charge of that Correspondents' Dinner totally came down like a ton of bricks on what happened Saturday night. So I can't say it's a total endorsement of saying the California elite and so forth. The problem, as I see it, whether you're for Trump, against him, I didn't vote for him, I didn't vote for Hillary. The shame of it all is that election divided this country in such a way that I've never seen before, and I've been around a long time. It is absolutely disgusting what's happened in this country with the divisiveness because of that election.
Jim, thank you for that call. I think the election manifested the deep divisions. I don't think the election caused it. I think it's there. And in fact, speaking of divisions, Frank Luntz was on Steffi Stephanopoulos yesterday. And he said he did a focus group. And he said in his entire career, he's never seen our country this divided, to the point now that he's literally worried. We are now in an ideological, cultural, and political civil war. There's no getting around that. I hope it doesn't become physical, but I'll tell you this. I don't want it to become physical, but what she did, Michelle Wolf, she just made this country even more divided. And that's why she should apologize. The sooner, the better.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.